We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Welcome to Liberty Nation Radio here on the Radio America Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. On today's show, we're talking political personalities in the 2024 election, free speech at the Supreme Court, and ask whether New York is trying to bury itself in a quandary of unequal justice. All that and a lot more on today's special show. Pundits often dig deep into the platforms, the policies, and the scandals, but further analysis as such will not likely shed much extra light on the 2024 presidential election. The personalities, however, well, perhaps that's where the analytical gold lies buried. Now, we're fortunate to have with us today Liberty Nation's editor-in-chief, Lisa K. Donner. Thanks for being here, Lisa. It's great to have you back on.
Good to see you. How are things over in the UK?
They are fantastic. Not as exciting as the US at the moment with the presidential primary season, which is it's really become my obsession since they all started. We're recording this. There have been 6 contests so far. And I think I've had to write up a prelude and an analysis for each one. So I'm up to my eyeballs in the numbers on stuff. But what I really want to talk about today, Lisa, is actually to give me a break from the numbers. I want to talk about the personalities and what people think of the presidential candidate personality. So I guess we should start really with the most basic of basic questions. Is there a single candidate running for the 2024 presidency that is not widely disliked by a majority of the population?
Well, I guess it would have to be Nikki Haley. I mean, she is not widely liked among the MAGA people, but she does seem to enjoy some reasonable popularity among, the rank and file Democrats and Republicans, the independents, et cetera, et cetera. So it does seem like, the polls are showing she's got some kind of traction with the population in general. I don't know how significant that is. I don't know if it's real, because
I see your point there.
Let me just say something. I think people are popular when they're not really necessarily the choice, the candidate,
Yeah, they're a hypothetical, and it's much easier to be more lenient with and more accessible to an unknown quantity or a hypothetical quantity, because at the moment she's so far behind in terms of likely delegates that she's going to get that the reality of a Nikki Haley, President Nikki Haley, is not really likely to come true. Although we will talk about what could happen for her in 2028. We'll talk about that later on in the show. Let's stick with the personalities for now.
Let me just say a couple of things about Nikki Haley.
Sure.
She is non-threatening to women. She is very, she's clean, neat, and articulate, I guess you would just say. She is, Hillary Clinton was sort of unlikable.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. But Nikki Haley, I think, enjoys a little more likability. Also, she's been, up until now anyway, she's been considered a strong, stable woman. I thought maybe the crying episode might cause a problem for her, but it didn't seem to.
Well, yeah, you're just to clarify that for our listeners, you're referring to she called this press conference with a state of the presidential race press conference, presidential campaign press conference, and a lot of people, you and I weren't fooled by this. We discussed it beforehand, but a lot of people thought, oh, she's going to fold up her tent and go home. We thought, oh, that's not going to happen. And really, all she did was call a press conference, get all the media attention, and say, oh, I'm staying in, and then began to blubber on camera. And I think the question you asked me while we were watching that in 2 separate countries, we were both watching it live. The question you asked me was, would Margaret Thatcher have ever blubbered on stage? And I thought that
your response was the Iron Lady.
Yeah, that's the Iron Lady. Never going to happen.
Unthinkable.
You're right when you say that we can draw a distinction between Nikki Haley and Hillary Clinton. Now, we're comparing them because they're 2 strong, politically involved women who are both running for president, right? That's why we're making that connection.
Go back to Geraldine Ferraro, but that was vice president.
Sure.
Sarah Palin. She
Yep.
had a high unlikability factor too.
Yeah, Sarah Palin. She hasn't done much to improve that for herself in the years since either.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's something else we discussed beforehand, and it was a phrase that popped into my head that I'm desperately trying to get into any article whatsoever because I think when a good turn of phrase occurs to you, it's worth keeping and putting somewhere. And I was thinking more about power and the will to power, and I said to you that Nikki Haley, she seems to have this fatal Clinton-esque conceit in her hunt for power, as in she believes that uh, she almost has a right to the nomination, or is that just the way I'm seeing it through my lens? What do you make of that?
Well, I think she's trying to capitalize on her strong suit, which is her popularity, among, like I was saying, independents and the middle ground, the people that can't stand Trump and can't stand Biden. I think she's just trying to capitalize on that. You got to go with what you got.
Hmm.
And, that's what she's got right now.
What
But,
she's got is she's not Trump and she's not Biden, right?
well, what's interesting about this, and I wondered if you wanted to talk about it a little bit, is there's been discussions about her being in no labels. And I don't see that happening, even though I know
Hmm.
Ari Fleischer talked about it and why he saw it happening. I don't see it happening because it would completely ruin her chances for the Republican nomination in 2028.
You know what, that really brings up the idea of motivations, as in why is she running now? And the reality is, a lot of people are saying that she's just doing it to offer an alternative to Trump, or that she doesn't think Trump will do well for the party. The reality is, it seems to me that she doesn't think she can win the presidency with no labels, and she's interested in winning the presidency. It's very much it comes back to the idea of power. She wants the presidency. She has to have the presidency, and she's not going to get that with no labels, even though they have such a network in place in terms of ballot access, which is, I mean, that's a tens of millions of dollars effort to get
But
ballot
what I've
access even
looked
in a
at
single
is
state.
the reality with no labels. I just looked at this a couple of weeks ago. The
Hmm.
reality is they had the potential to be on like 20 or 30 ballots, but they were actually physically on one.
I don't think that's right. I think they have access to.
No, they have access, but
Oh,
where they're
right, I see it.
actually, what I'm saying is they have access, but where they actually are right now
Hmm.
physically is on one. But that doesn't mean, they can't get on other ones.
Sure.
The question is this really true, or is this just a balloon that's being floated by somebody like Ari Fleischer?
You know what? It brings people into the no labels net. It's like if you a field of dreams. If you build it, they will come,
They would
right?
come.
Or there's a line by one of my favorite authors, Richard Condon. It's I think it's Manchurian Candidate. It's from. Her ambition was a distressing condition. She looked for power the way a superstitious man looks for a four-leaf clover. It's something like that.
Oh, okay, that's familiar.
Yeah, it's Richard Condon's very, very great writer. But yeah, the idea that a no labels vehicle for Nikki Haley is there for her it's interesting, absolutely. But I don't see that it can land her the presidency, and that's what she wants, right? She wants the presidency.
Well, I think it ends up with a spoiler role,
Mm.
and we do have an independent, we can't forget, in RFK Jr.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Ross Perot of this election, perhaps. We'll actually get onto that topic after this short break. Lisa, thanks for being here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just one moment. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at libertynation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. we believe in free thinking and free speech. We are LibertyNation.com.